Welcome to How to Do Business with the Government, part of the Startup King Small Business Lectures Government Contracting Series. This government contracting series includes government contracting basics and government contracting set-asides. Please subscribe to our channel to be notified of upcoming videos such as overview of government set-asides, local state contracting set-asides, reviews of the HubZone certification, reviews of SAM.gov and BetaSAM.gov. There is opportunity for government contracting. Many of us may think that it's too difficult or it's just set out for the big companies, but there are several opportunities to do business with the different levels of government. The fact is that the government does need small business. The government purchases the same services and types of products that the private sector needs and purchases on a daily basis. The services include such things as construction labor, management, consulting, cybersecurity, engineering, recruiting, and then products like construction materials, computers, vehicles, machinery, software, weapons, and even food. The goal of the federal government is to award 23% of their contract dollars to small business, and that does add up to a significant amount. How to begin? Let's start with planning as a first step to what we always recommend to our clients. As part of planning, we ask our clients to have a very honest conversation about themselves, about listing the type of services or products that they currently provide, writing out what their expertise is in. What can you legitimately be a subject matter expert in or claim to be in? Do you have capabilities and past performance? That is something we ask our clients, and capabilities and past performance are terminologies used in government contracting. Capabilities refers to specific services and products that you can provide on a same scale and complex level as what the government is seeking. And past performance refers to typically previous government contracts that your company or any company has performed with the federal government that can now be applied to a new contract, in as far as the experience and capabilities and the similarities and complexities that can be implemented. So past performance and capabilities are very important, and you do need to list out those both for marketing purposes. Past performance also does have a time constraint on it, and it can also come from the corporate sector. So many small businesses start out doing government contracting, and obviously they don't have government contracting experience, but they do have corporate or private sector experience that can be applied to the similar types of work that the government wants. The next thing we ask our clients to do is list out the product and service codes that they provide. The federal government, state government, county and city or local levels of government use different types of codes to standardize their service categorizations. The most popular right now is something called the North American Industry Classification System, NAICS codes. And NAICS codes are used by the federal government, and there's an example, two examples here. 541511 corresponds to custom computer programming services, and 541512 corresponds to computer systems design services. So if you are in, let's say, cybersecurity, very good chance that the first or the second, depending on exactly what you do, may correspond to your business. So it's very important for you to know what NAICS codes correspond to what the services that you offer. There is also another popular system, classification system, that's called the National Institute of Government Purchasing code system. NIGP codes are not really used at the federal level. However, they are used at the state, county, and local levels. So again, you do need to be familiar with what services correspond to your NIGP levels. So if you are asked by a procurement officer, you have the answer. What we also think that every small business should consider is to ask themselves whether the company is low risk to the federal government. This is probably one of the on the top of the list for government contracting, procurement, selections. The company that procurement officers select have to be low risk, the lowest possible risk to the government. They want to make sure that you are able to start and finish your contract, and you can do so at the cost and at the time frame that you previously stated. If there is any type of reason why they may think that you cannot accomplish those things, then you are considered a risk, and chances are you're not going to be selected. The next thing you need to consider is who can you approach? Multiple different levels of government. All of them have different procurement processes and procurement officers and procurement websites. So depending on where you live, you may be able to contact your city, county, state, and of course, federal agencies to perform government contracting procurement services. You can, and for an example here, we use the state of Maryland, but these are good search terms for your search engine. The primary websites will usually come up for the different levels, but state of Maryland procurement will come up with the statewide system for procurement. If you want to do a county, the counties have their own. Montgomery County, Maryland is the example we used here, City of Rockville, Maryland procurement, and then different agencies may also have their own procurement systems. Just because a state has a statewide procurement system doesn't mean all of the agencies in that state participate in that system. They may have been able to start and implement their own, and they just are not required to participate in the statewide system. Next, as far as planning, as part of planning, you should consider the barriers of entry. Barriers of entry into government contracting. Typically, they include just the simple fact that a small business doesn't have the capabilities that are either valuable enough or just not in depth enough to provide a low risk option to the government. You could also not have enough past performance from the private sector. So if you have had very little, let's say you've had $5,000 cybersecurity contracts with small companies, it is very unlikely for that to translate into the government sector if you're trying to all of a sudden win $1 million cybersecurity contract. So you may have to stay within the private sector and increase your contract size, continue to grow there, and then begin to implement your government contracting journey. And then one thing that a lot of companies do not necessarily consider at first, even those that have capabilities and good private sector past performance, is cash reserve or a line of credit at the ready in case you need it to make things like payroll and just overhead bills. One thing a lot of small businesses don't consider and don't know is that the government pays later than the private sector. The government is obligated to pay you, so you will get paid. However, the amount of paperwork that goes into getting paid is quite more extensive, and the bureaucracy just takes longer. So you may need to use your cash reserves or a line of credit to make payroll for 1, 2, 3 months repeatedly until you're starting to get paid by your government agency. Let's talk about registration as a beginning step. Of course, government procurement is very paperwork heavy, and the administrative setup process, as we recommend it, begins with registering to get a DUNS number. It's very quick, it's free. At this point, at the time of the recording of this video, the federal government does still require a DUNS number. There were rumors and press releases that they may discontinue that and begin their own type of registration number. However, the DUNS number is still good. And if you are intending to do business or receive a grant from the federal government, you are required to register to have one. The URL is here. However, if you're not comfortable typing this long one, and of course URLs can change and become outdated, you can just search for registration of DUNS, and it should take you to the same website. That is a very simple process. It shouldn't take very long. You just have to give them information and you'll be registered, and then you can move on to the next process. The next process is registering on SAM.gov. SAM is a system for award management. You cannot receive an award, whether it's a grant or a contract, if you are not registered in SAM. And it does take a little bit of time for this registration to go through, especially if you're also applying for a CAGE code, which you should as part of your SAM.gov process. So you'll create an account and then you'll go to registration, and we have a screenshot in the next slide to show you how to do that. And we also are coming with a video to show you the different components of SAM.gov and other government procurement websites. So please subscribe to get that when it's coming. The next place you want to go is BetaSAM, beta.sam.gov. This is a replacement of many different services and websites from the federal government. One which way you may have been familiar with is FedBizOpps or FBO. FedBizOpps is gone. It's been completely replaced by beta.sam.gov. All the award notices and contract opportunities are listed in beta.sam.gov. So you should check it out. You should create an account. And since you, at this point, know your NAICS codes, you know what agencies you want to consider targeting, then you can set up searches, set up different searches for different agencies, and be notified anytime there's a contract that is applicable to your company. Of course, as far as administrative setups, as we've stated several times, city, county, state procurement websites can be different, completely different, and obviously there are different places, so you need to search for them. The one thing to keep in mind, and we briefly touched on this, but different agencies might have their own websites and systems for procurement. So one thing to keep in mind is that just because you're on the federal side doesn't mean you don't need to look specifically at other agency websites. Same things for state, county, and city levels. The graphic below is what you see when you go to sam.gov. And the first step once you go there is to create a user account, which is on the left-hand side. You see that. And once you've created an account, you can come back to the main page and register the entity. So that is actually registering your business. Let's talk about marketing as part of the beginning steps. Marketing setup, it's very important to understand and know that getting into a database like beta.sam.gov or your state's database once you register is not marketing. You're just in a database. Any company can do that. It doesn't mean the contracts are going to start flowing in. The first thing as far as marketing is concerned, and you have a lot of information at this point, is to create a capability statement. A capability statement is, again, one of those government procurement terminologies that basically equates to a brochure, usually 1 to 2 pages, typically recommended not to exceed 2 pages, for your company. It includes things like your DUNS number, your CAGE code, your NAICS codes, and a brief listing of your capabilities if you've had previous clients like federal government clients or even big private sector clients. You can put their names and logos in, and then listing briefly the types of past work that you've done. That's the past performance. This is often used by procurement officials in different levels to not only screen different types of small businesses, but also to store in a database just in case they need to find, let's say, again, a cybersecurity company in the future. They can kind of easily search through those and pull out, let's say, 5 capability statements, give it to their client, their, let's say, procurement manager or vice president of the agency, and give them some options. The other thing that's very important with capability statements is to keep it easily editable. A lot of people spend a lot of time creating a fancy document that's made by a graphic artist or someone with some knowledge of design software. And once they do that, they pay them and they have it in hand, but your capabilities change. You get more clients. You have to easily be able to update, continuously update your capability statement. The other thing is that procurement officers tend to ask you for different types of information on your capability statement. They want to see different things. So if you can easily edit your capability statement, that's a very good thing. We don't have examples of capability statements in this video, but if you use a search engine and you just Google or use Bing or any type of engine to search capability statements, all the different types of companies' capability statements will come up. Perhaps you've even done enough research to know that there are certain competitors in your industry for the government sectors that you're going for. You can check their capability statements and kind of take what you like and how complete they are and then create your own. The next thing you want to do, very important for marketing, for government contracting, is to make a list of government contacts that you have. You may not have any, which is fine, but friends, family, corporate colleagues, all of them. If someone does work for the government, you need to pick their brain about the types of services they use, purchase. Same thing with the types of products. Your contact, your friend, family member, or former colleague may not necessarily be in the procurement field for that agency, but they do have insight on what that agency needs. What you want to do is find the problem that your services or products can solve. And then the other very important thing is that every government agency has small business representatives. They can be called different things, but if you go to an agency's website and if you Google or whatever search engine you want, search, let's say, Department of Transportation Small Business Office or Small Business Rep, it'll take you to their site. It'll list the people, the contact information. Once you have your capability statement, that is something you need to do as far as engaging those people. You need to talk to them, get their advice, ask them how they can do business with their agencies, and then that will kind of formulate your overall marketing and targeting strategy. It's good to engage the small business reps, but if you engage with them multiple times, you should show them that you've been doing research or you're looking at specific contracts or specific services and you want to know who you can market to that agency. And then one other thing that as a beginning step you might want to consider is set-asides, government set-asides. Now we have a separate video for this and you can click to go to that video and watch that video. And of course that's a 5-part series, so more of the videos will come out, but government set-asides are a minimum amount of awards to qualified socially, economically, and geographically underrepresented small businesses. The word qualified is underlined because it's very important to understand that just because you have a set-aside, let's say you're a woman-owned business or a veteran-owned business, does not mean you're qualified to get a contract. You actually have to have past performance and capabilities to get that. So if you're not qualified as a cybersecurity company, because all you've done is, let's say, computer programming, then you're not going to get a cybersecurity contract. We have listed just briefly the set-asides for federal level examples, and you can see the federal government does set aside 3% for service-disabled veterans, 3% for HUBZone, 5% for women-owned businesses, and our later videos will cover specifically more in depth about these set-asides on state and federal levels. And finally, the next steps. So where do we go from here? The simple beginning processes are planning, registration, and marketing. And if you have an existing company and you think you have enough past performance in the private sector to start marketing to the federal government or the state government or local government, then start from the planning stage. If you don't have a company, then of course you need to start by forming your entity and then start at the planning stage. Or as always, you can ask us for help and we can guide you. One other thing you could do as a next step is to sign up for our course, the Startup Ascent course, where we do speak about specifically government contracting, opportunities and set-asides, and we cover pre-planning, formation of entity, financial platforms, all the way to admin procedures, insurance, marketing, facilities. And you do get a free copy of the Startup King as course text. And of course, our next class, we have monthly classes. They are pretty intense. They do take 5 hours. You do learn a lot. Next one coming is February 27th, and you can find it on Eventbrite, startupascent.eventbrite.com. Of course, we talked about the videos, but please subscribe and you'll be notified of any upcoming videos that we published. We try to make them as informative and useful and efficient as possible. If you have any questions or you want to connect with us or you have any ideas of videos or questions that you want answered, please use the following platforms to reach us: LinkedIn, of course, this channel where you can subscribe to Reddit, and also ask to be added to our monthly newsletter.